Hello, hello. Welcome to how buying real estate in Texas differs from other states and what you need to know as a buyer, because a lot of people don't even realize that Texas is kind of a little bit of an odd duck. We don't let other states real estate licenses transfer over here. We have our own little set of rules. Now, some of the things might be very similar to your state, but a lot of things surprisingly are different here. So, let's talk about that right now. So, some things can really look different in other states, and it's important that you understand these differences because it could save you a lot of time and a lot of money. And, we're going to go over the buying process and all of that too. So, anyway, let's just start with that. Let's start with the buying process and what that looks like, and we'll kind of cover everything as we go and as it comes up. Okay, so step one in any state is going to be that you need to get a pre-approval. So it's very important that you get your pre-approval letter, because how else are you going to know what price point that you need to be shopping in? You don't really even know how you can pick the area of town that you want to live in until you know what you can afford, because different parts of town are going to be more expensive. You need to figure out how much your payment could be and what you're comfortable with. So we need to look at that. I have lots of mortgage brokers that I work with that I can hook you up with, and they can help you with that. They'll walk you through that, help you figure all that out. But there's nothing worse are going to ask for with the offer. They want to see the offer until we know that someone can actually finance it. Now, if you're a cash buyer, then good for you. You just need a proof of funding letter, or something to show. You can get a letter from your bank. Sometimes you can show bank statements, things like that. But usually people are financing, so you just need to get your pre-approval letter. I can help you with that. So don't worry. It's good to get someone who is from the state, because they're going to understand the way things work here in Texas also. So all very important to get your pre-approval letter. You're also going to want to know how much your down payment needs to be. So your lender is going to be able to tell you that. And that's going to be important because you need to save up enough money. What if you are planning that you need to put 10% down, but really you're going to end up having to put 20% down? So all very important. Okay, so once you have that, then the next step is going to be to narrow your search area, because Dallas is very big. DFW is very big. So we're Dallas, Fort Worth. Dallas and Fort Worth are very different, and we'll talk about that in another video. But you need to figure out, do I want to live in Dallas or Fort Worth? Maybe you got a job somewhere, and we need to kind of work within a radius of your job, and we need to talk about commute times and things like that. But that affordability is going to come into play there, your commute to work, and just the lifestyle that you want to lead. The schools, do you have kids? If you have kids, then we're going to want to look at how good the schools are. Unless you're going to go to private school, then we need to talk about the private school. So there's a lot that goes into determining the search area that you are interested in, but I can help you do that. So that's step two. You got to narrow it down, because it's a really big place. And if you're just looking all over, then that's going to be really hard for you to kind of reel it in and hone in to where you want to be, or you're going to be torn in every direction. I see this a lot. So it's good to kind of narrow that down. And then the fun part is the third step, which is going and looking. So I recommend, when you're in the narrowing, part of your search, that you come here. Okay. So I have a lot of people who, you'd be surprised, they accept a job here and they've never even been here. So they don't really know anything about the area. And I've had people purchase homes here without even seeing the home before it went under contract, and never even coming to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I don't recommend that. It worked out well for those people, but I don't recommend that. I would recommend coming in and visiting all these different areas and figure out, kind of where you want to hone and do this all different ways. So if you're out of state and you're wanting to go on a tour, things can go kind of quick here, especially the good ones. They can go fast. So you have to rely on your agent here, which could possibly be me. Hopefully it would be me. You're going to have to rely on me a lot to go and be your eyes and ears and your boots on the ground. So we do a lot of virtual tours where I'll just go and I'll either FaceTime with you, and I'll show you around the house. And there's a lot of times where, you can see that and you can go, oh, wait, that I can already tell right now, I hate the color of that, or I hate this or that. And so that's going to be a no-go. Sometimes people don't have time to do all the FaceTiming. So I'll take videos and I'll send the videos of each of the different areas. So a lot of times that's how people find things because they can't come into town all the time to be looking at houses. So maybe one pops up and it's going to go quick. So we might need to put an offer in on it before the person has seen it. Now, I'm going to get more into how that works because what if you get it under contract and you don't like it? Well, we're going to get to all that. So don't worry, there are ways out of it that aren't going to cost you a lot of money. So we'll discuss that. But that's how we do. We do a lot of tours virtually. Or you can just schedule. What a lot of people do is they schedule a long weekend and they tell me, hey, I'm going to come in. This is when I can be there this weekend, this week, whatever. And I will just schedule a ton of showings. They tell me the things that they like and the areas that they like, and we just do a blitz and we just check them all out. And I mean, I'll spend a couple days with you, and I mean, we're good buddies by the time it's over because a lot of times you're in the car with me and you got to put up with my driving and all the things. But we do that a lot too. So it really just kind of depends on what works for you. But if things are not working out for your travel schedule, then a lot of times we do the virtual showing. So got my hot drink going. This week I have very uninterested in that opinion. Do you know who this is? It's David, from Schitt's Creek. He's my favorite. David and Alexis, those are my favorites. Oh, goodness. Okay, so step 4, once you find the house that you want and you like and you love it, because I need you to love it. I don't want you to just kind of like it. Okay, I want you to absolutely love it. So once you love it, then we make an offer. Now, the contract is going to say that you're accepting the property as is, but don't freak out because you're not necessarily taking it as is. This is where it all gets very interesting. So as soon as we decide that you want to make an offer, I call the agent. Ring, ring. So, we really like it. It's a great house. Curious how it's going over there. Yeah, you guys had a lot of showings, a lot of action on it. Okay, yeah. All right. Well, do you have any offers in hand? Have you had any offers come in? Okay. Yes, you do. You do have an offer. Okay. Well, can you tell me, did you get asking price? Okay. No, not asking price. Okay. But is it cash? Okay. It's not cash. All right. Well, is there anything that might be important to the seller besides the sales price? Because obviously, they want to get the most money. They want to get the most money for the house, but, we need to see what else because there could be other things. There could be extenuating circumstances. So I need to find those things out. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so I was just wanted to see, do they do they have a place to go? Do they already have another house under contract? Okay, yeah. So they don't. All right. Well, are they going to need time to move? Okay. So this is where a lease back would be handy. So maybe you are offering the same as someone else on a property, but you can offer them a complimentary lease back, which means they could stay in the house for a couple of weeks while they're getting their stuff packed and getting moved into the new spot that they need to find because they don't have one yet, things like that. So, okay. So could use a lease back. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. But they have another. Okay. So they do need to get their cash out of the house. Well, all right. So quick close would be ideal. So that's good to know. All right. All right. Sounds good. I'll get it written up. Thanks a lot. I'll have it to you shortly. Okay. Remember back when we used to hang phones up because we actually had a hook for the phone to go on, or you could hang it like that. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to feel the agent out basically, and I'm going to find out what it is that is important to them. So we get our offer all written up and we get it all ready to go. We submit that. And this is where we need to kind of talk about some of the differences of Texas and maybe your state, wherever you are from. So, okay, I've got some little notes here because, I'm not going to remember all that and I'm going to get off track. I'll go on a tangent and you'll never get me back. So, okay. So let's talk about the terms and the closing process. All right. So major differences are going to come into play here. Like, for example, here in Texas, you do not need to hire an attorney. A lot of states like New York and Florida, you have to have an attorney and they kind of handle the whole thing and make sure it's done properly. Well, that's not how it works here. Here we have title companies that and the correct paperwork is filed, and we really depend on them. I mean, we know what paperwork needs to be filed because that's, kind of what we're for, but they make sure, sometimes there could be some weird something that we miss and they go, oh, hey, you're in a whatever zone and we need this disclosure or something. So we depend on them for that. So they handle that, and they also employ attorneys themselves. So that's very helpful. So you don't need to hire your own attorney, and that can save you some money. They also hold all of the deposits. So your escrow account is opened with them, and they collect that money, your earnest money, and your option fee, which we're going to get to. So they hold all that because they're a neutral party, and they're not on anybody's side. Whereas when you hire an attorney elsewhere, then you each have your own attorney, and each attorney is on each party's side. Well, this is a neutral party, and they really don't care. They just want to do what's right, which is nice. So they also issue the title insurance. So normally here, the seller would purchase a policy for the buyer, and then the buyer, if they are financing, would purchase a policy for the lender. So that's usually how that works in a normal situation. So some of the things that you're going to need to consider when you're getting your money together is the earnest money. Okay, so this is a good faith deposit to show that you're serious. Okay, so this is basically so that you have some skin in the game. That's the best way to describe it, in my opinion. That's some money that you lay out on the line saying that I'm going to close this deal and I don't want to lose my money. So if you try to back out of the contract illegally, or a place where there's not a contingency that allows for that, then you're going to give that earnest money up. So this is your good faith money saying that I know that I'm going to lose this money if I don't close. But there are ways around that. So the earnest money is usually 1% to 2% of the offer amount. And it really does depend on whether or not you are in a multiple offer situation, what that amount needs to be, or just whatever it needs to be to make the seller feel comfortable. Sometimes 1% is fine. If you're buying a $2 million house, 1% is fine. So you don't have to worry about putting some crazy amount of money down. So the earnest money is held in escrow by the title company, and it can be refunded if you back out when there's a contingency that is not met and you are legally allowed to back out, then you get your earnest money back. So don't worry about that. There are a lot of loopholes in the contracts in Texas. So, if you're financing contingency, then you can wait. But normally, we need 2 weeks to 21 days to make sure that you are approved for your loan. We need to get the home appraised, because if it doesn't appraise, then the deal's off and you can get your earnest money back. So there's a lot of ways that you can get that back. There is you can forfeit it if you don't have a reason. So let's talk about the option period. Okay. So the option period is really important. That's something that you probably don't have in your state. Now, you probably have some sort of form of inspection period, maybe that you negotiate, or maybe it's always a set amount of time. It's different in all the different states. I've heard all kinds of different scenarios, but here in Texas, we have the option period. Now, what this is it's a negotiated amount of time that the buyer purchases for a negotiated amount of money. Okay, so the buyer has to purchase this amount of time, but it's a very important amount of time, because that is when you get your inspections done and you do all of your due diligence. We do all of our due diligence and make sure that everything is exactly the way we want it, because if you want to back out during the option period, that is the time that you can have the unrestricted right to get out of the contract. You don't have to even give a reason. You can just say, I changed my mind and I don't want it anymore. So if you do that, then you do lose your option fee, which is usually just a couple $100s. It really depends on if you have a lot of competition, if you want a longer option period, that's going to cost you more money. But generally, for a standard option period, 200 bucks, 100 bucks, 150, that'll get you your option period. Now, if you have multiple offers, then you're going to want to up the ante because they want to go with the person who's the surest close. So if you have more money on the line and you really, really think you want this house and we don't foresee anything crazy going on with it that we would think would come up in the inspection, and you really want to lock it in, then you might want to put something down like $500, $1,000, something like that. But either way, you have to pay for that option to get out. But if you think about it, it's really a small amount to pay if you think about all the money that you could be losing if you have a lot of earnest money on the line. So this is the time where you get the inspection back, you get that report back. The air conditioning unit is on its last leg. It's not cooling properly, or there's some kind of foundation issue going on. And here I have a quote for the repairs, because that's what I do. I go, when I find out something's wrong with it, I go get a quote, I find out how much it's going to cost, and then I present the pages from the inspection report that show that a repair is needed, and I show the estimate of what it would cost to get it fixed. Now, whether it's something you actually fix or not is up to you. It's not really causing that big of a problem, but it is something that should be fixed. Then I don't have anything to do with that. But I'm going to go back to the seller and I'm going to try to get a credit, either off the sales price or ideally off of your closing costs, because the closing costs are the money that you are bringing to the table. So if we take it out of the closing costs, and that's less money that you have to come up with right now whenever you go to closing. So you've got that to think about. So it's a very important amount of time. So people say, that they want to waive the option period to make their offer look more juicy in a multiple offer situation. And I do not recommend that. I do not recommend that. Always get an inspection, unless you're an investor. Okay, if you're an investor and you're looking at this house and you're going, okay, I'm coming up with my budget, then at that point, I just recommend you budget for everything being wrong. Budget for, you need everything. You need an air conditioner, you need every appliance, and you need it all. So budget for that, and that's what we're going to get it under contract for. And then we can waive the option. So that's the only time that I would ever say that that's okay to do. So option period, very, very important. So your state might have a period where you can negotiate those things, but usually they're a little more rigid. And the option period is really nice because that's just a time when you can just walk away and say hasta la vista, and you are good. Okay, so once you get through the option period and your financing contingencies and all of that, and you are officially pending, then you don't have any reason to get out of the contract at that point. So once you are approved, you are locked in, and you will lose your earnest money at that point if you don't close the contract. So that's something you really want to be mindful of. I don't really see that happen very often. I've only seen one person walk away from earnest money, to be honest with you, and they knew they were doing it. They could have closed it, but they changed their mind. And they found another house, and they only had 10 of them. It was worth good. It's kind of like a consolation prize if you think about it. So anyway, now after that, you're going to go to closing. So you're going to have to think about your closing costs and some of the things that you need to get together. Now, in Texas, the title policy is a closing cost that is not always paid by the buyer or the seller. So some states, you just split it right down the middle and it's half and half to each side, and that's just how it is. Well, that's not necessarily how it works here. That's something that you negotiate. Now, if there's no other offers on the table, then customarily the seller would pay for the owner's policy and the buyer would pay for the lender's policy, like I said before. But if you're in a multiple offer situation, this is one of those things that you can throw in there as the buyer and say, no, no, no. Maybe we are offering the same amount, but we are willing to pay the title policy. So that's just a little something that makes the seller feel good and it saves them some money. So that's something you can do to juicy it up a little. We're all about juicing it up a little with our offers. So that's just kind of how it works with that. So you have to think about who's paying the title policy. Then you also have to think about other little fees like recording fees, and it's maybe like $100. There's escrow fees. That's usually $500 or $600, and just different things that you will split with the seller. So I can't even remember what they all are, but generally what I do is I have the title company write us up a little estimate so you can get an idea of what you need to be preparing for. But if you have financing, you also need to consider that you're going to have loan origination fees, which is usually 1% of the loan amount. So you're going to need to pay that. The appraisal is going to cost you some money. Depends on the lender and the size of the house and all the different things. So you're going to have that. It could be $1,000. Sometimes it's less. It just depends. And then the survey. Usually, customarily, the buyer offers to pay for a new survey if one is needed. Now, if it's an older home and it hasn't had a survey in a long time, then the title company sometimes won't take it if it's 10 or 15 years old. But sometimes they do. I've seen them take some really old ones. So it just really depends on the title company. But yeah, so they can provide you an estimate. They're also going to give you a settlement disclosure a few days before you close. So that will every little detail. And then you have the actual closing. So one of the things is the closing date, which could also be different in your states. I've seen some weird stuff. I have, and I was very surprised. Now, weird to me is just a really long closing date. So someone told me the other day that it's not uncommon in their state to have up to 60 days to close. And I thought, that's a long time. We would never do that here in Texas. I mean, maybe if it was your friend selling it to you or something, but, or maybe they just could not sell the thing and they were like, fine, whatever, just please buy it. But we don't do that. Normally it is 30 days to 45 days at the most, but it's been a long time since I've even seen a 45-day close, usually 30 days. And that's that. So that's just some of the things that are different. We don't have attorneys here unless you want one. The title company handles things, just different little things that come into play here in Texas. So hopefully that helps you understand some of the differences. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the description below, and I can answer any of those for you. We can book a Zoom call if you are ready to have a little strategy session because you're thinking about moving to the area, and we can do that as well. So let's talk. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.